Hello and welcome to our 23rd session, and in this session we are going to continue from the previous session wherein we had created an interactive cube and controlled its size, scale and color using the sliders in the Unity editor. Now in this session we are going to transfer these controls from the Unity editor to the end user, and to do this we are going to make use of user interface in Unity and we are going to incorporate the concept of sliders. In this session we are just going to build the logic of how various sliders can be created and how the end user can control the position, scale and color of our cube through these sliders. Double click Unity Hub to launch it. Now in the Unity Hub, come into the project and you can start with the interactive cube project that we completed in the previous session. But if you doesn't have this project, no problem, you can even start with a new project. You can click on new project and I am now going to call this as interactive UI slider, and in eUnity project with SRP Universal 3D template selected, I will click on create project. Once the project launches, just as usual, come into the inspector, click on this remove readme asset and in this confirmation box click on proceed. Now before you proceed, come into your YouTube page or e-learning page and in the description click on more, and you are provided with a Patreon link. Click on this and this link will bring you to the Unity Junior Programmer Series Patreon page. Scroll down and I have shared you the exported Unity package. Click on this to download it. Now come back into Unity and in assets just right click, click import package and choose custom package and select the downloaded cube interactive editor side package and double click to import it, and in import Unity package see that all is selected and click on import. Now it is saying do you want to reload the scene? Click on reload. So I will now come into the asset scenes, double click on cube editor interactive to open it, and in the cube we had added the cube script in our previous session. I will come into file, choose save as and come into Unity project interactive UI slider assets, and in scenes folder I am now going to call cube editor with sliders and I am going to save this. We are going to add our UI element slider in our scene to control all these parameters in our cube script. I will come into the hierarchy. I will right click, come into UI, and first I am going to call a canvas. As soon as I add a canvas, event system is added, and in the canvas I am now going to call this as sliders canvas. I am going to select this canvas, right click, I will come into UI and I am going to add my first slider. And the first slider that I have created is going to control the X position. So I will call this as position X slider. It is placed at the center. For this position X slider, I am going to open, there are three areas here: background, fill area and handle slide area. So right now I am not worrying about its design. In the fill area I will come into fill and in the color I will click here and I am going to select a green color. I am now going to close. Inside this pose X slider I will right click, come into the UI and I am going to add TextMeshPro. Now as soon as I click on this, you get a window TMP importer. Now click here import TMP Essentials because I need this TextMeshPro component in my Unity to handle text. So once I export it, then I will come select this text and in the text input I am going to call this as X position. I will select this text and along the Y axis I will just move it to the top, and I will also come in the font size and I will reduce it to 24, and I will move it along the X also so that it is placed exactly above the slider. If required, along the Y axis I will slightly move it down. I doesn't want this slider in the center of the screen, but I want it on the side. So I will select this pose X slider. I am going to come here in this rect transform and this alignment. I will alt click on this and click on top right align. And when I click on this, see this is now aligned to the top right end. But now so I will come here into position Y and I will slightly move it down so that I have the slider. With pose X slider selected, the maximum value I can give to move the position, I am going to set this to 10 and minimum value I will set it to -10. Between -10 and 10, I can move the X position. I will select this pose X slider inside a slider canvas and press Ctrl D to duplicate it. And I will press F2 and I am now going to call this as pose Y slider. I will move it along the Y axis down so that it is placed below the X slider. I will move it by minus 80 and X also it is set to minus 80. Pose X slider, I will move it by minus 40. Pose Y slider, I have moved it by minus 80. I am going to open this, come into the text prompt, and instead of X position now, I will call this as Y position. Then I will close this. Select pose Y slider, right click, and I will duplicate this, or I can just press Ctrl D, press F2, and I am now going to call this as pose Z slider. Move it along the Y axis down by 40 units. I will move it to minus 120 unit. I will open this position Z slider, come into text, and I am going to now call this as Z position. Then I am going to close this. Then I will select the pose Z slider, right click, and I am going to duplicate it, or press Ctrl D, press F2, and I am going to call this as scale slider. I am going to now select this scale slider and along the Y axis move it by minus 160. I will open this, and in the text TMP box, I am going to change the value to scale. I will close this scale slider, select the scale slider. Another adjustment I have to do is, the scale doesn't start with, I will come here in the inspector and I will set the minimum value to 1 and the maximum size I can scale is 5. I will select the scale slider, press Ctrl D to duplicate it, then I will press F2 and I am going to call this as red color. I will now come into the inspector and along the Y axis minus 160, I will add another minus 40 and press enter. I will open red color and come into text TMP, and here instead of scale, I will call it as red. I will come here, open the fill area, and in fill color, I am going to change this color also to red, and then come into the red color, and in the value, minimum value I will set it to 0 and maximum value I will set it to 1. I will select this red color, press Ctrl D to duplicate, press F2. I am now going to call this as green color. I am now going to move it by minus 200, minus 40, and I will open this, come into text, and here I am going to call it green. I will come into fill area, open it, select fill and open this, and I will now change the color to green. And also I will select the green color now, press Ctrl D, press F2, and I am going to rename this as blue color. I will then come into inspector and along the Y axis for minus 240 I will add another minus 40. Then I will open blue color, come into text TMP, and I am going to call this as blue, and I will select fill area, open fill, and here I will click on the color, select a blue color, and I am going to close this. We have added the 3 colors. I have to adjust the rotation speed. So I will select blue color, press Ctrl D. I will press F2 and I am going to call this as rotate speed. I am going to come into inspector panel and in rect transform, in position Y, I am going to add another minus 40. Then for rotate speed, I will open, come into the fill area, and I select the fill color, come here, and I will set it back to green color. I am now going to come into the text area, and I am going to call this now as rotate speed, and I will next close this. And for rotate speed, if I come into the value, I will set the minimum value, I will keep it as 0, and maximum I will set it to around 20. And the initial value of rotation, I will leave it at 1. And since for red, green and blue I have used RGB colors, for XYZ position, scale and rotation speed, I will change this fill color. So I will come into position X slider, come to fill, and I am going to select a dark gray color. Copy this hexadecimal code here, copy it. I will close it, open position Y slider, come here into fill area, fill, and click on the color here, and I am going to paste this hexadecimal color. And similarly now I will also come to position Z slider, open fill area, fill, and in color I am going to paste the same hexadecimal code. And then even for scale I will open fill area, fill, I will click on this color and in hexadecimal paste the code. Then for red, green, blue I will leave it as it is, and for rotation speed also I will come into fill area, fill, click on the color, and I am going to paste the hexadecimal code and close it, so that other colors are in dark gray and only RGB are in the color. Now with this we have created this user interface for the slider and have made it ready, and next we have to add the functionality. Now comes the logic of linking all these sliders to my cube values. To achieve this, I will come into the project panel, scripts, right click, come into create, and I am going to create a new mono behavior script, and I am going to call this as SliderControl and press enter. Allow the script to get compiled. See that the name in the public class here and the name of the file is the same. Then double click to open it. Now in this case, since we are using UI, I have to first come into this namespaces. After line 1, I will press enter, and I am going to enter using UnityEngine.UI, and I will end it with semicolon. I will come into my public class SliderControl. After this open flower bracket, my first job is to declare all the variables. I will add 2 forward slashes, create variable to reference my cube, and then I will press enter. I will then add 2 forward slashes and write the comment, create a reference to my cube script. Then I will press enter, and now I am going to call public. And normally in our old version of Unity, we used to call a game object cube, but in the latest version I can directly call my script name. The script name that I have attached to cube is cube, where C is capital. Then I am going to call this as cube with C small letter. I will next press enter, and I am going to declare all my sliders. So I will call public slider, and the first slider is pose X slider, and I will end it with semicolon. I will press enter. I will call public slider. The second slider is pose Y slider. I will declare public slider, and this is pose Z slider. End it with semicolon. Then public slider. Now I am going to declare scale slider. End it with semicolon. Then I will declare public slider, and the slider for red color, I will call it as red slider. End it with semicolon. Public slider, and I am going to call now this as green slider. End it with semicolon. Then I will declare public slider. Type of variable, I have to use slider S capital. Blue slider. End it with colon. Finally, I will declare public slider, and I am going to call this as rotate speed slider, and I will end it with semicolon. So I have declared totally 8 sliders. So in line number 11, I have forgotten to add semicolon. I will add a semicolon. Now all this will be visible in my editor, and in the editor, to organize it correctly, above public cube, I will just press enter, and in the top line above this, I am now going to add open close square bracket. I will add a header, and in open close brackets, inside this I will add inverted comma, and inside the inverted comma I will call this cube object reference. This is called as a header. How it works, I will show it in the editor later. Then after cube, I will press enter, and adding two forward slashes, I am going to add create references to all sliders. I will press enter. I will add open close square bracket. Inside that I will type header, and in open close bracket inside the inverted comma I will type slider references. I will come into this start, that is when the game starts. I want all my slider value to be equal to the default value I have given in my cube.cs script. So I will come back into SliderControl.cs, and initially I am now going to call these sliders one by one. I will first call poseX slider. I am going to set its value, and this value will be equal to cube script. It will be equal to poseX, and I will end it with semicolon. It is not poses, it is xpose. So I have to give the name correctly, xpose, and I will end it with semicolon. I will come to the next line. Pose y slider will be equal to cube.yPose. I will press enter. Pose z slider value will be equal to cube zPose value. I will press enter. Then scale slider value will be equal to cube.scale. I will then come to next line. Red slider dot value will be equal to cube.rv. Green slider value will be equal to cube.gv. Blue slider value will be equal to cube.bv. Rotate speed slider value will be equal to cube.rotate speed. So initially I have set all these values to its default values. When the slider moves, I have to now change these values. When they drag the slider forward or backward, value to be changed. And for this, after this update, for every value change, I am going to create a new method. So after this update close flower bracket, I will press enter twice, and I will declare public void, and the first one I will call it as set position x, and in open close bracket I will give it a parameter. The type of this parameter is float, and I will say, for example, give it a value like v. I will press enter, and in open close flower bracket, inside this flower bracket now I will set cube xpose value equal to v, and I will end it with semicolon. I have to create similarly 8 methods. See, automatically in Visual Studio Code, the advantage is, see, it reads the code and automatically it is setting all this value. So I can just click on this, and you can now see I have declared public void set pose y equal to cube y pose equals v. I have declared another method set pose z float v equal to cube z pose is equal to v. I have set public void set scale. I have set cube scale is equal to v. Similarly, for set red, I have set it to cube rv equals v. For set green, I have set cube gv equals v. For set blue, I have set cube bv equals v. And set rotation speed, I have set cube dot rotate speed equal to v. Like this, declared this 8 different methods. I will again come back into the start. Initially, when during the start, I will press enter, and I will add 2 forward slasher. This is going to initialize all slider to match the cube script values. After this last line, I will press enter, press forward slash twice, add listener to all sliders to call the appropriate method when their values change. In Unity, we call this as events. When a user drags the slider, we call it as an event, and for that we use this add listener. Press enter. First I am going to call my poseX slider, period onValueChanged. When its value changes, period add listener. For poseX slider, I will call the method setPoseX, and for pose y slider, I will set onValueChange add listener setPoseY. Then if I press enter, see, in Visual Studio Code, all these are automatically added. Pose Z slider setPose Z is added. Scale slider set scale is added. Red slider set red. Green slider set green. Blue slider set blue. and rotate speed slider is set with set rotate speed. So now what happens is whenever this value changes, then this set pos x method is called, and in set pos x what happens? The value of x position will be equal to v, and v is nothing but the value of the slider. So here I will come down after this close bracket, also press enter twice, and I will add 2 forward slashes, and these are the method to set cube script variable based on slider values. We have completed this script of SliderControl.cs. Only difference is here for create I have done a spelling mistake. I will add create a reference. That doesn't bother because this is a comment. Then I will go to file, save this. I will now come back to Unity and allow the script to get compiled. I am now going to take this slide control script and I am going to attach it to my slider canvas. Now when I attach it to slider canvas, you can scroll down here. You have the slider control script here, and I have to add all these references. And I told you why we added the header in script. If I come back to the script here, we added this header cube object reference. By adding this in Unity editor, your parameters will be grouped with header. See, cube reference, slider references. This heading is coming from the header component. For cube, I will come into my hierarchy and I will drag the cube and attach it here. For pose X slider, I am going to drag pose X slider. Pose Y slider, from the hierarchy I drag pose Y slider. For pose Z slider, I will drag pose Z slider. Then for scale slider, I will drag scale slider. Red slider, I connect it to red slider here. Green color, I will connect it to green slider. Blue color, I will connect it to blue slider. And finally rotate speed, I connect it to rotate speed slider. Now finally I will go to file, save this. I doesn't have any error. Keeping my fingers crossed, I will just play and check it. You can see the cube is spinning. Now if the user moves the X value, see it is moving left and right. If the user moves the Y value, it is moving up and down. If the user moves Z value, it is moving along Z. Scale, it is going to become bigger. And in red, if I decrease, see it becomes cyan. If I decrease green also, it becomes blue. And blue, if I reduce it fully, it becomes black. If I increase only green, it becomes green. Now in rotate speed, if I decrease it, means this is actually 0, so it is not rotating at all. Now if I drag it to the other end, it starts rotating at a maximum speed. So with this, we have successfully completed this project and we have created prototype of adding user interfaces and controlling a 3D model through these values. So now I will stop the playback. I want to share this content with all the users. Host it. Everyone can have a look at it. I will come into file and I will come into build profiles. I am going to select WebGL. Click here and click on switch platform. So this is now going to switch the platform from Windows version to web version. Now web version is active. Still some compiling of script is going on. So this build and run is still grayed out. Next here, in the scene list, I have sample scene here. So I will click on open scene list. I select this sample scene. I will just right click and remove this from the selection. Then I will move the build profile to the side, and here in the project panel from the scene, I am going to drag this cube editor with sliders into my scene. I will also come into the player setting now. You can set your company name. I will call this as Satvik, and product name I will leave it as it is. Remember, do not use numbers here. Then I am in the web format. You can add icon here, open resolution here and set what should be the resolution. So I am going to use this PWA. PWA stands for Progressive Web Apps. In canvas width, I will set it to 1270 by 720, and then if I scroll down, if you want, you can write a product description, UI slider demo. I can add a splash image, You have other settings here which I leave everything as it is, and only thing is if you scroll down in publish setting, in compression format it is set to broadly. Click here and choose the disabled. So with this I will close the player setting, then I will also close this build profile. Now I will go to file, save it, then again I will come into file, build profile, and with web selected, I will choose build here. In my folder, I am going to create a folder called web. Selecting this web folder, I will then click on select folder and wait for the build to complete. Now once the build is complete, you can come into this web folder and you have a index.html file. If you double click it, this file is not going to open because this can be accessed only through a web server. So I will close this. If you come into your browser, type simple web server and you have the first link here. You can come here and download this application. I have already installed it. If I run this application, I will open this. I will click on this port, and here in the folder path, I will click here and come into eUnity project interactive UI slider. I will select web and click select folder. Then I will save the changes. And now if I click on this link, now this is going to open in the web browser. And you can see here in the web browser, I can check it. All the options are running. The best way to share this information online is come into your browser and type Unity Play. You will be brought into this play.unity.com website. Then you come on this avatar signature and sign in with your account. Come to your web folder, select all the content here, right click and choose compress to zip file. Come into your Unity Play and click on the upload button. Drag your zipped folder index.zip. I will drag it over here and wait for the file to get uploaded. Now once it is uploaded, you can scroll down, give it a title. In the description, I am going to mention interactive 3D model control using sliders. If I scroll down, you can also add a thumbnail image. So I have added a thumbnail image for this. Public, anyone can view, and I can save this. On the top, whatever link you are seeing, you can just right click, copy it and save it with anyone. So if I click on the play button, this is now going to play on Unity Play. See, it is playing on the Unity Play and everything is working fine. So with this, we are going to conclude this session. And in our next session, we are going to continue with our next challenge of creating an animated game.